Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast where two guys watch random movies and talk about them. With me, as always, is the Neil Armstrong to my Michael Collins, Kyle Mulford, and I'm Noah Seddon. How you doing, Kyle?
This is one small podcast for mankind. I'm doing good.
I will stay in the ship.
This week's podcast is brought to you by IBM because we are the podcast that will make you obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
Also, yeah, I'm doing good.
Do you know who Michael Collins is?
Name sounds familiar.
He's the third guy.
He's the third guy. Okay, there you go. That's why the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, the one people forget about because he's not Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin.
Right. My favorite thing with the moon landing is I don't know if you ever saw Eddie Izzard Dressed to Kill. He does a whole bit where it's like, oh, the camera is stationary. I think they should have been walking across and then all of a sudden go, oh, there's a monster. Oh! Just just run past the camera going, ah.
Actually, you can actually read some of the logs that they had, some of the transcripts from what they were actually talking about. Some of it is pretty funny.
Probably just everyday shit, right?
Yeah, they're just talking about yeah. So I check out some of the transcripts; they're pretty great. So doing incredible things, but also just talking about how Neil Armstrong can eat a bunch of beans or something.
Nice. Well, speaking of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, what did we watch this week?
We watched Hidden Figures.
That has nothing to do with those two, other than NASA,
the space program. So yeah.
Space. Mm-hmm. Space pigs.
Exactly.
Yeah, 2016 film. It actually, I think it got limited release at the end of 2016 and was a wide release in 2017.
Yep.
This is a film directed by Theodore Melfi. Nothing else of real note that he's directed.
Yeah, I was looking at him too. Just nothing I could see.
This does have music by Hans Zimmer, Benjamin Wallfish, who did things like It 1 and 2 and Blade Runner 2049.
Nice.
So, and then everyone knows Hans Zimmer, Hans Bwong Zimmer. And then
you mean Hans Zimmer, also, the keyboardist from the Buggles?
And then also Pharrell Williams worked on the music on this, and you could, and I know his voice because I'm a fan of Pharrell Williams, and throughout the whole soundtrack, he sings all of the songs in the movie. It's very contemporary music, but but written for the theme of this movie and everything.
And I think that probably was what makes it work, other than just using any old song that would happen to be popular in that year.
Yeah, right. So, it probably makes it work better just because of the way the time was back then. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe they could have found some music that fit well, but I enjoyed the soundtrack on this, honestly.
Yeah. Anyway, what's it about, Kyle?
This is about 3 African-American women who got into the NASA program because they were super smart and they worked for their way up in there, and they were there, to help in 1961-62 with the space race against the Russians and getting the first men into space, like John Glenn and all of them. So they were a pivotal part of the team, and their story should be told.
Yep. And they are played by Taraji P Henson, Octavia Spencer, who needs 5 Oscars by now, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And Janelle Monáe.
And can I just say they were played wonderfully by all 3 of those actresses?
They worked very well together, and I kind of wish they were just I could just watch them just hanging out, talking about whatever. They work so well together.
I loved Taraji P Henson because she's almost unrecognizable from a lot of her other roles because she plays this little nebbish bookworm type mathematician. Mm-hmm. That the push up my glasses, kind of shy, doesn't speak out, is kind of standoffish and everything, and she's so cute in this movie. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they did work well together. I liked all 3 of them, and actually Octavia Spencer was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for this film. it was also nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Picture. So good for it.
What won that year? I don't remember.
You know what? I should have looked that up.
Was that the Green Book year or no?
No, I don't think so, because this was
This was
2000.
like Moonlight, maybe. I don't remember.
I can't think. That's 5 or 6 years ago, so that's too far back.
I gotta Google it.
The Google knows.
Mm-hmm.
So this movie starts out. Taraji P Henson playing Catherine seems to be the main focus, although it's about all three of them, but she kind of seems to be the main
She's
focus,
arguably the main character.
the lead. And we start out in 1926 showing a young Catherine. That's her character's name. And it shows that she's super smart at math and, just like genius. I I was reading a little bit about the historical accuracy, which we'll get into later, but it did say that I think she graduated from high school when she was 14 and graduated from college when she was 18.
Also, I was right. Moonlight did win that year.
Oh, okay. That was the
That was
Moonlight
the
La
year
La
of the
Land
La La
debacle.
Land Moonlight wrong envelope debacle.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, you had that Moonlight and this and a lot of good movies that year. Was that the same year as Green Book that got
No,
nominated?
Green Book won Best Picture the
Green Book
year
did.
afterwards.
Okay, because Green Book was the year that there was a lot of better movies than it
Mm-hmm.
was. But anyway, that's a whole different debate there. However, starring Mahershala Ali, who was also in this movie.
True, and he also won an Oscar for his portrayal for as Best Supporting Actor and Moonlight, actually. So Mahershala Ali all up in the place.
All over the place, and why not? Because he's pretty great. I like him,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to be the new Blade, which is
Great.
fantastic. So yeah, we see her that young, and then we go to 1961, and we kind of just open up with the three women, Catherine, Mary, and Dorothy, and they're broke down on the side of the road, and it's 1961, and it starts out like just like a cop comes up, and you're like, oh no, this is not going to be good. And then it kind of subverts that and is like, the cop was actually kind of friendly. It's just like, it's
Yeah.
not safe for you to be broke down on this road here.
Yeah, and Mary is the kind of one who talks a lot, or who won't always giving people a piece of her mind, no matter who it is. And it's like, oh, we're just working at NASA. It's like, really? Yeah.
And then they gives him a police escort. I
Yeah.
love Mary in this because she's so just brash with everyone.
She's very
In your
confident, which you can really appreciate.
Yeah, yeah. But so that's just kind of our introduction to the three characters because you kind of get a feel for them with this scene. They really drive it home because their car is broke down, and you see that Mary is the go-getter. Dorothy is the fixer, and she knows mechanics, and she's good with machines. And then you've got just this kind of meek Catherine over in the background, just
Kind of daydreaming a bit, but then still clearly extremely smart.
yeah, exactly. So you get to NASA, and we see that the blacks and the whites are separated, they're segregated into different buildings. This is an interesting thing. Maybe we can go over like kind of like historical accuracy a little bit. Apparently the segregation in the building was kind of abolished in the 50s. So, and they were already established in their roles before all of this space race happened.
Mm-hmm.
So everything you see in the movie is accurate, but it's in the wrong timeline.
Okay.
So it's like Dorothy at the end of the movie, you see that Dorothy becomes like the first. I don't remember if she's the first woman or just the first African American to become a supervisor at NASA, but she did that several years before this movie even takes place.
Okay, so they kind of had to squish a few things together.
Yeah, and Catherine was already working there by like 1949, and I guess in 1958 they changed from NACA to NASA, and that's when
Hmm.
they changed to NASA. And when things moved, she was already part of the team, and she moved with them. So she was already, and apparently by the time 1961 rolled around and all of this stuff was going on, they were like all their teams were all fully integrated, like multi-ethnic, fully integrated
Mm-hmm.
teams. So but I'm sure that like because this is one of those movies that kind of like I think fudges just to show what life was like back then, but within a kind of a shortened time period.
Yeah, because how do you, I guess, talk about someone's career when they're at NASA for decades through all these
Yeah,
incredible moments? Kind of had to pick one and focus on one time period.
yeah,
So that's probably what they did for the best. Otherwise, it'd just be like montage, 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 years, years, years.
yeah, and then because there's even like stuff like John Glenn is shown in this, and Dorothy's the one who gets to know the IBM computers in there. And John Glenn asks for her specifically before he goes on his flight. And in the movie, it's like one of those time crunch things, like, oh, we need this today because my flight is today. It's like in real life, he actually did specifically ask for
You mean Catherine?
Dorothy to
Or was it Dorothy?
Dorothy.
Okay.
Because she was the one who no, Catherine.
Catherine, yeah, Catherine Johnson.
Because she knew the math, and he did specifically ask for her to crunch the numbers for him, but she had like 3 weeks to do it in real life.
Okay.
So they made it a little bit more dramatic just for movie purposes. So
Yeah, because watching someone just do math can be kind of hard to make visually interesting.
yeah. So this is a case where it's like there's a when I was reading about it, it's like there's some website that does like what percentage of a movie is true, and this was like 74% accurate. And I'm
Nice.
like, that's good enough. And it's one of those things where it's like it's kind of a case of this is why you never watch a biopic for history, because you get it to get you interested in that subject, and then you go and read more about it and see what
Yeah, I
really
like see the
happened.
book about also called Hidden Figures.
Yeah. So this was based off of a book written, and I don't know how much they changed of the book. I'm assuming the book has to be a little more accurate because I think the book actually
Yeah, it's a
goes
nonfiction book.
it goes through a few decades, I think. So I would be really interested to read the book on this. But anyway, so you've got these three girls, and they're segregated, and there's a group of people there that they call computers because they compute numbers. And this is when they just had calculators, and at this point they're bringing in an IBM computer. And so like they don't even have computers in this place. Like everybody at NASA is doing all this math by hand and everything. And which is just crazy to me because they're like, oh, in order to do this, we have to come up with new math that doesn't exist yet. I'm like, how do you do that?
Yeah, and then of course, you can be like, like ourself, like my smartphone, which I'm looking at right now, has more power than what they needed to go to the moon. So
Yeah. And that's crazy to me. Like they did this with just one giant IBM computer, and that's not even, as intelligent as your smartphone, and a
yeah,
bunch
and
of
this is
people.
huge because it was before transistors were invented, so it was all vacuum tubes.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. But I think the whole thing about this movie is just kind of like why they compressed it down is it kind of worked because it's like, well, you're doing this to make it look like, like a time crunch thing and all this and get a little more drama in there. But also showing kind of what's going on in the world and what they had to deal with. Because like I said, they were fully integrated. And one of the three, and I don't remember if it was Catherine or Dorothy. I was reading that they said because a couple of them lived to be like 101 and
Yeah,
98,
Catherine lived to be a very long time.
but they were like they knew the segregation was there in NASA, but they're like, I didn't feel it there. I was just part of the team,
Hmm.
So of course there were people that were not great, but that's the thing is that one person is I can't remember the character's name, but it's Sheldon from
Yeah, so
Jim
Jim
Parsons.
Parsons, the actor, he
He
plays.
plays kind of the most smarmy bad guy in the group with the number crunchers with Catherine, and he's kind of an amalgamation of all of the people who were that way with the
Yeah,
real
kind of
Catherine.
like, so they picked him to kind of be, I guess, to show an example of what she had to deal with all the time.
Yeah, like he would undermine her and he'd cross stuff out so she couldn't read all of the facts that she needed for to compute stuff, and he brought in a separate coffee maker, and because he didn't want her drinking out of the same coffee maker as him. And Sheldon was a real jackass in this movie.
Yeah, well, he was in his show for a long time too.
Yeah, he's a jackass because he doesn't know how, like, he has no social etiquette in that.
Mhm.
It almost felt like Sheldon, like a racist Sheldon.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he's super smart in this movie, so it's like, he's like a super smart mathematician in this instead of a physicist or whatever he is in Big Bang Theory. But he's just like he's a racist Sheldon, basically.
Yeah, if you could like mix in clips of him making fun of Howard for going to space, it'd be perfect. It's like
Right?
monkeys went to space, Howard. You're not that special.
Where was Howard in this movie?
Yeah.
And then Catherine's overall boss was Kevin Costner. I liked him in this role.
He's playing Kevin Costner.
And maybe that's why I liked him. I like Kevin Costner.
Yeah, it's the same character, but it's still a good character in this,
Yeah.
Mr. Grumpy. He's basically a grumpy baseball coach.
Right? He plays that character well, and I'll always watch him in those kind of roles.
Remember at NASA, we all pee the same color.
Right?
No, now, did you know, was the bathroom scene, was that real or was that just sort of
No, and
more of an
apparently
amalgamation?
that was that was one problem that some people had with this movie, is because it almost showed the white savior thing. It's like,
Yeah.
you have to get white people into the theaters, so you got to show that not all white people were bad in the
That's what I
60s.
just kind of was like thinking to myself, not all whites.
Because the way it actually happened apparently was, I don't even know if it was Catherine or if it might have been Mary or Dorothy that actually never went to a different building to go to the restroom. They didn't realize that, like, the bathroom they were going to was a whites only one, because apparently there was no sign or something like that. I can't remember exactly what I read on there, but they were going into the whites only bathroom until someone complained about it, and then she ignored the complaint, and then it just went away.
Well, that's fun too.
Yeah, so
But
I was
yeah.
just like, I kind of liked that. I'm like, show that in the movie where it's just like, yeah, I'm going in your bathroom. I got to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Because the other thing is, in this movie, Mary is the engineer, and she has to take. They make rules in NASA so just to keep her down and from getting an actual engineer position, even though she's smart enough and she's got the education. Then they're like, "Oh no, you have to have an education at this school, and the only way you can get that now is going to night classes at this high school that does night classes for this college, and this high school you got to go to is whites only." So then she goes to a judge and wins him over,
Yeah, so
and
that's kind of her plot, and they all kind of climax around the same time.
it's a
With
cool
Dorothy's
scene.
plot being the computer, and then Mary's plot being the courtroom, and
Yeah.
then Catherine's plot being the math.
And then reading about that, though, it was like, it was kind of cool seeing that scene, and I like the scene, so that was really good. I like that it's in the movie, but apparently in real life, basically, yes, she did have to take those night classes, and it was a whites only school, but she basically said, "Hey, can I do this?" And they're like, "Yeah," and 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 she went to the night classes there. But like, the thing is that it was a really rundown school,
Mm-hmm.
and what it was saying there, and this is all stuff I'm reading online, so who knows how much of this is true too. So, but apparently that was one of the things I've never thought about. This is that it was a rundown school, because when you have two separate schools, because you're segregated, funding both of them is hard. So your schools aren't really that great because you don't have enough money to fund
Mm-hmm.
both schools. So but yeah, it sounds like she's just like, "Can I do night classes here?" And they were like, "Okay."
Yeah, but that's, I think they added this courtroom part really just so they each have their own plot, so
Yeah.
that they can have something to kind of work up against and work together to face adversity.
Yeah,
But
and I
yeah, I
think
mean, with made up scenes like that, which still provides a good character moment, I think I'm okay with.
well, and that's the thing is I think that it works because it sounds like they did okay for themselves and didn't have to struggle that much, but this being the time, that's not an inaccurate depiction though. It might not be exactly what happened to them, but it's a good depiction of the fight that a lot of people that didn't get the positions they had to fight. And so I think that works to put those scenes in there and kind of show what kind of struggle there was in this, in the early 60s, late 50s.
Yeah, I think my biggest complaint about this film was nothing against the film itself, but I guess I kind of wish it would have. I guess I wish there would have been more black talent behind the camera in addition to in front of the camera, because the director's white, the screenwriter's white, the author of the original book is black. But I definitely felt like they could have used something probably more lived experience than just because, I mean, I'll never know what it's like to really live that sort of experience. So I kind of wish they would have got someone like Ava DuVernay or Barry Jenkins that probably would have done a great job with this material.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Yeah, like I said, some of the scenes can be seen as kind of a white savior kind of scene, but I
Like
don't
that
think
we
they
all
go.
pee the same color.
Yes, we all pee the same color, uh, but I didn't find that as huge of a problem in this film. It didn't bother me too much. I think overall the film did show the three leads as very solid characters that did fight for themselves, and it did stand up for themselves and all that. So I think they did a good job of doing that overall through the movie. So, but again, this is one of those topics. So we're two white guys talking about something we'll never experience.
Exactly. So ultimately, we're not the we're not interested. This our opinions don't really matter that much.
No, and I will apologize right now to anybody who listens to this, and I'm saying anything wrong about this, and I don't mean to. And I am admittedly a white guy, and I'm a white middle class man in America, so I don't know the struggles that other people have had, and
Hmm.
I realize that. So the only thing we can do is recognize it, right? And
Yeah, and I think a movie like this can be good to help us empathize because, as Roger Ebert said, a movie is an empathy making machine or
yeah,
something along those lines. So the big question is before we move on is, do you think this movie will become the next Remember the Titans? As in it's
I don't
shown every year for Black History Month?
I don't know because I was gonna say I don't hear people talking about this one that much anymore, but I don't really hear people talking about Remember the Titans all that much anymore either. Although I really dig the hell out of Remember the Titans. I like that
Yeah,
movie.
especially for Denzel.
What is it? Left side, strong side.
Something like that. Yeah, anyway, so I think this movie, I don't know, but because it's rating, it'll probably end up spending a lot of time in the middle school circuit where they show it in middle school as part of like Black History Month every year, because it seemed like from about 5th grade through maybe like 10th or 11th grade in school, at least in my Catholic school experience, we would watch Remember the Titans every single year for Black History Month, and that was about it.
Wow, because
Yeah.
there's nothing better than Remember the Titans.
Well, you think about it, this is a Catholic environment, so you want to have something that's still rated okay so that the 6th grader can still watch.
Yep, that's true.
So it's rated PG, but still show some stuff. It still be, I guess, interesting enough for kids, and I guess some kids like sports.
But I don't know if we've missed anything in here. Dorothy learns how to. Oh, I liked the scene when Dorothy goes to the library and they kick her out because she's black,
Hmm.
and because she wants to learn about the IBM computers that are coming in because all of like the top guys at NASA can't figure them out, and she's like, well, then I'll learn about this, and I got job security, yeah. And so
Pretty much, make yourself essential.
she goes to the library and they kick her out, but before they kick her out, she snags the book on that she needs to read up on this stuff. And her daughter's like, "Did you steal that?" And she's like, "I don't see how you can steal something your taxpayers paid for, your
Yeah,
taxpayer
exactly.
money
I pay
paid for."
taxes. I paid for this. This is my book.
I like that. It's just like, you know what? Yes, stealing is wrong, but so is kicking someone out of a library because of the color of their skin. So good on you.
Exactly.
I I love Octavia Spencer.
I know. I kind of wish she would do more stuff like when she was in Ma. She played the villain in a horror movie.
Right.
I want Ma too. Ma
She
Ma.
she she is a national icon.
Agreed. She should have all the Oscars.
But yeah, so that's the just this movie, and eventually they get John Glenn and the others to space, and well, not before the Russians get to space first, though. Those damn Russians, those commie bastards. But yeah, we get our men to space and orbiting Earth, and then you see at the end it says it does say Dorothy became the first African American supervisor, and and it just says it that way, so it didn't say when. So like technically that's true, but it was before this movie.
Yeah, that's
But
kind of fudging the rules there, Coach.
yeah, it is a little bit. I think they should have put at the end, hey, really, she was this at this point, and who's gonna care at the end? Like, put the real
Mm-hmm.
facts at the end.
Anyway, so yeah, now I guess would you recommend this film, Kyle?
I would. I really like this film.
Agreed. I would recommend it, and I would also recommend this is one of those movies where you should do more research afterwards.
Yes. And yeah, like I said, yeah, I know that conversation. Maybe I'm going in the wrong direction with that. But so tell me, I let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think of this, and if you have experiences that would better let you talk to us about this film.
Also, are you like me, where you had to watch Remember the Titans a bunch of times?
Right? But hey, that's a good movie. A young Ryan Gosling, and then you got Denzel Washington, and and just a good film. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this film. This is a second viewing for me. I watched it when it came out, and I still enjoy this, and mostly because of the three leads from Taraji and Octavia, and was it Janelle
Yeah,
Monáe.
I think they definitely elevated the film, at least for me.
Three solid performances. So, what would you recommend as a double feature with this?
For my double feature, I would go continuing with the theory of what was as it called the U.S. space program, yeah, USSPC SCU, whatever, the U.S. space program cinematic universe.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I guess I'll go with stick with space. Go with Apollo 13.
Okay, cool. I was going to stick with actually the other side of this story with the fighter pilots who ended up going into space, like John Glenn and Gus Grissom and the others. There were seven of them,
Yeah, the
and
Mercury 7.
yeah, the Mercury 7, and see the astronaut, the fighter pilot / astronaut side, and watch The Right Stuff from 1983.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I'll tell you, it's a cinematic universe. You got this, you got The Right Stuff, Hidden Figures, First Man, Apollo 13.
Unfortunately, I was not a fan of First Man.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, something about that movie just didn't hit me. I didn't like it. But
Let us know if there's any other U.S. space program cinematic universe films.
yeah, Right Stuff has a great cast too.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm blocking the name of the main guy, Ed Harris, and Scott Glenn, and the boy. I'm now all of a sudden I'm recommending this movie, and the great cast, and a young Dennis Quaid is a hot shot pilot.
As I assume he's playing the same character from Independence Day.
Which character was he in?
No, that was
Independence Day?
Randy Quaid, not Dennis Quaid.
I was going to say, wait a minute,
Wrong Quaid.
wrong Quaid. Oh, but you got Fred Ward.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right,
so
what are we gonna watch next?
Let's go to the wheel. All genres, 70 or better. Spin it. We have a U.S. Army officer who made a friendly fire mistake that was covered up has been reassigned to a desk job. He is tasked to investigate a female chopper commander's worthiness to be awarded the Medal of Honor. At first, all seems in order, but then he begins to notice inconsistencies between the testimonies of the witnesses. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Any clues?
Shoot. I kind of know who you're talking about, but I forget the name of the movie.
This is Denzel Washington and Meg Ryan in the 1996 film Courage Under Fire. And you can find this on Hulu.
All right.
So,
we're going to have to watch more Denzel movies.
Right? I'm always down for more Denzel.
Mm-hmm.
Go watch Remember the Titans.
Okay, maybe not that one, but still. All right. Where can they find us on social media? You can find me on Twitter at Noah_Saturn. That is spelled SATERN.
And I am at AwesomeKM, and we're on Instagram at We Don't Know What to Watch. And you can email us, we don't know what to watch at gmail.com. And until next time,
to infinity and beyond.
To infinity and beyond.